Who remembers Habbo Hotel? It's back and it's the same as it was in 2005. This is Habbo Hotel Origins. After discovering a bunch of old server files gathering dust, the guys at Habbo have restored an ancient version as it was from its first release. Now this is just like old school RuneScape or Warcraft Classic, in which basically the community is going to get a vote on what's to come. Now there's a bit of history with Habbo for me. Along with games like Club Penguin and RuneScape, I did play this game a lot during the summer back when I was, let's say, aged 10 or 11. There were about 4 of us that played the game back then, 3 dudes and a girl. Now I don't really remember too many specific stories back when we played it, although some I do remember vividly. For example, on Habbo you have private rooms, and some of these are password protected and some of them are open to the public. I remember my friends had a password on the room and I tried to connect and I just couldn't get in. I guess I was the only one who didn't know the password. Every time I tried to use the in-game message system to text them what it was to get inside, they just reply with lol. I remember getting pretty peed off at the time, and a few days later the summer holidays were over and we were back to school. I remember asking them what the password was and why didn't they tell me it, and it turns out they hadn't actually been trolling me. The password was actually just the word lol. For some reason it had never clicked with me to even try entering that on the login. I also vividly remember my friends spending a bunch on the in-game furniture. In Habbo, the good furniture to decorate your place with costs real money via coins or points, and as a broke kid our places looked pretty tragic. Yet our one friend Joe was absolutely minted with the best Fernie, as we called it. The dude had golden sofas and chairs, and I remember how cool it looked. Habbo was definitely a pay to be cool kind of experience back in the day. Now I don't know if you've ever seen the show called Catfish. Well, I remember Joe and I switched up our characters' clothes and gender in game just for a laugh, back before that was even a thing. Remember, this is Habbo we're talking about in like 2007 or 2008. Now as with any online game, Habbo definitely is a honeypot for weird people, and there's always a bunch of creeps in there, many of which were delighted when we strolled into the hotel, and we definitely trolled them a lot. Even the website has some retro vibes, and if you Google the old site from back in 2005, it's the same theme and it's almost identical. The game works the same. You can join the Habbo Club, buy furniture or pets, etc. What people may or may not be disappointed with though is that you need to actually make a new account. You can't actually use your OG Habbo account because the data hasn't carried over. I did check out the Habbo credits and subscription, although I probably won't be buying it, unless childhood me pops up on my shoulder as some kind of bad influence. To launch the game, you need to download a client, and this is where you can play each version of the game. It was honestly so nostalgic though to see that pixelated hotel background again. It'd been years. I remember it so vividly. There are a few things I forgot though. For example, the character creator doesn't really have a ton of customization pieces. I don't remember it being so simple, but I do love the art style. I ended up making a character pretty close to my look, as best as I could with what was available. The hotel navigator basically shows you a bunch of public spaces and private rooms from players. Anything in green is basically populated, and anything in grey is code word for this spot is pretty dead. First I dropped into the lobby, which was pretty dead. The catalogue has a whole bunch of retro looking stuff that you can buy for your room, and for a 2005 game the options are pretty wild. It kind of reminds me of the furniture catalogue off Club Penguin. If you know, you know. Now I'm not sure if the guy sitting in the corner of the hotel was a bot or NPC or a real player. You get a lot of that in this game, with people AFK standing against the wall, but it said that he paid for the Habbo Club, so I guess he's only half of an NPC. I decided to go sit in the corner on the couches. When a room is dead, there's not a whole bunch to do on Habbo since it is a social game. You'll probably see me shoot a bunch of messages with no luck, and see my wallet was empty with a bunch of flies in it. There's no better way for Habbo to call me poor. I also directly asked them if they were AI, but no response I guess. Next I went to the cinema, so in here some dude who is clearly a fan of Nelk, called Full Send, kept just sending one-word letters, I guess just because he wanted to be noticed. Also, some player was somehow inside the movie screen. The dude literally became part of the Matrix. Then I went to a spot called the Slice of Life, a restaurant, with some cool kids trying to look badass in the chat. Now, for some reason they were dressed in tuxedos and speaking a mix of English and Dutch. I stole some dude's chair at the table to blend in, although I ended up being in a self-dialogue with myself and just being ignored. So now Habbo called me poor, and then also made me feel like a loser. Not the best experience so far in this game. So I decided to roleplay as an insufferable rich trust fund kid, shouting expletives at the AI waiter and telling the degenerate kids at the table to be escorted away swiftly. The conversation conversation was centering around music by this point, so I tried to be part of it by talking some nonsense about SoundCloud rappers, because that's where the direction of the conversation seemed to be going. But that also didn't really go anywhere either, and the dude was just mindlessly doing the default dance by the door, so I left the table and walked away from them. I also thought it was pretty stereotypical that the pizza chef here was called Luigi. The Habbo Lido was pretty dead too, just some weirdo with bunny ears doing the robot next to the pool. The rooftop rumble spot was probably the first cool room that I dropped into, where I actually didn't get ignored. Now for some reason I was on the flat screen in full 4K, and some dude was literally caught in 4K on there too, doing questionable things in the swimming pool. After struggling to get into the pool, it turns out you need to get changed first. You can't swim in your jeans, which kind of makes sense I guess. And I also learned here that I needed to talk in shout mode. Apparently there's a few different options in the chat, so people could actually see my messages. It kind of turns out that I was getting ignored for a reason, because I didn't really know this. The Sun Terrace was also a ghost town, but I love the art style. But the picnic garden is where I had the biggest challenge. I saw some dudes up on the rooftop in some exclusive room with no clue how to get up there. It was another divide of the cool kids versus the not so cool kids on Habbo. I guess maybe they paid to get up there with real world money. At first they were trying to gatekeep stuff, but I guess they felt pretty sorry for me, so the girl let me in on the method to get up into the VIP spot. Apparently there's some exploit or Easter egg in this room where you have to click these really tiny dots on the wall in the right spots and order to get your character to walk up the stairs to the right positions and then inside this dining area. I struggled a bit for a while and I got beaten to it by some people, but I got there in the end. But these people were a pretty cool vibe. It seems like most people playing were just trying to relive the nostalgia of their childhood on this game, sharing their memories and of course these cool glitches too, which I had no clue about. We even had a conversation relating to the other people and if they were NPCs or not, which made us also some new friends because some of them actually replied and also some of them got offended. I talked to them for a while before making it off to my next destination. The game hall lobby was nice looking, it lets you go to the other rooms. I dropped into the battleships room specifically in the game hall, and I had no clue how to play this, but some random girl sat down to play and I guess we got engaged in a tense and competitive navy battle, trying to destroy the other ships the fastest. Now to be honest, I think we were both learning as we went along, although it was clear that I was losing. So I ended up getting bored pretty quickly and just abandoning her mid-game and decided to just take the L on this one. Visiting Cafe Ole was a ragtag band of people, a goth, some dude wearing a Christmas hat, a girl on her own by some slot machines, and some strange dude in the corner with a very questionable name, who we probably should all have reported to the authorities just for existing. I decided to visit the private rooms next. I first dropped into the Cribbo, a 25 plus room, allegedly, with a bunch of mindless degenerates dancing locked behind some gold furniture, playing Spin the Bottle. It seemed like the rich kids were divided from the normies in the corner, although eventually I learnt that you could just go through the teleporter to go onto the other side. I defaulted to the same setting of calling them NPCs to try and break into the conversation, although it seemed like there was about 10 different conversations going on simultaneously, some related to e-dating and some other stuff like a dude advertising his own room, which just made me tune out completely. I visited the small room, which was owned by some dude called Rodney. Apparently Rodney is some kind of pervert because his messages were pretty concerning. I also still never understood why Habbo players just sit there staring at the wall. Apparently a bunch of them spent hundreds of dollars on this game, which was probably their life savings if you're playing Habbo all day. I also dropped into NL Amsterdam briefly, which was just some Dutch dudes sat in a fully golden room, which probably also cost them an arm and a leg too. Live Chill at Corey's was another allegedly 25 plus room. I didn't really get the design choice here. It's like the dude just let some weeds grow and devour all of his house and then just claim it was art. This room was pretty much everyone simping over this one purple girl in the corner, who also told me the dude Corey, who owned this room, spent an absolute fortune on designing it. It was also quite concerning with two random dudes having a bath next to the couches, and on that note I took my leave. Things started to kick off, so I got out of there. Sophia's apartment was a room owned by some Portuguese girl who was actually pretty friendly. The aesthetic of this spot was pretty nice, even if it was feminine colours. I think it was probably the first room which actually had some consideration to its design. This room was just a bunch of us reminiscing on the old memories of this game, and this is when it hit me that I completely forgot that Habbo had no sound to it, which is why I decided to add some music to this video, because it kills the immersion when there's no sound anywhere. One thing I was concerned about though is the fact that they had a camera pointing in the direction of the bathroom, which I'm not sure is legal or not in Habbo Land, although pretty concerning again. This spot was dope for networking though, and it turns out Mark Zuckerberg was vibing on the couch. Someone basically logged in under the alias Zuck, which I guess was a coincidence, and I wonder who used the name first. I'm still betting that he's a Facebook spy of some sort though. We had a small conversation about the coolest cities in Portugal, and I also noticed some random dude with a builder's hat sat at the table. I guess he thought he was coming to a fancy dress party to cosplay as the village people, although the YMCA was nowhere to be seen. Out of boredom I did raid the fridge, but apparently all there was to take was a carrot, which was pretty depressing. I guess playing Habbo for more than half an hour defaults you to factory settings, because I got infected with a robot dance virus and started busting some moves next to the TV. And then of course I made my leave whilst dancing out the door. The last destination was the Emo Lounge, owned by Infinite Sadness. I never really got the whole emo thing, voluntary depression and all, but we move. I guess these people are just begging for attention. I tried to break into this elusive gang, but apparently I wasn't dark enough. They also never admitted to being real emos or not when I asked them in the chat, so I figured out this was probably some kind of CIA operation or some kind of DEA sting, so I kept low key. Yet again, this was another room with a gang of dudes simping over one girl, so I got out of there. Habbo still brings back some great memories. The art style is still so nostalgic, there's some fun conversations to be had and random experiences with some really weird and wonderful characters. Although like with any online game, there's a sprinkle of a few weirdos thrown in there and an unlimited supply of simps too. But I guess that's Habbo for you. I don't think I could play for more than an hour on this game. In fact, I recorded all of this basically in a 50-minute window of footage, but I must admit I actually did start to enjoy it again when I was playing it. But I likely won't be playing any more of it. What do you think of Habbo? Did you ever play it? Was it any good? Do you have any funny stories or memories? And will you play Habbo now that it's actually back? Let me know in the comments. And don't forget to like and subscribe. Thanks for watching.